Here's the game changer, ladies. Whether you're just tipping your toes into pre-menopause or deep into your menopausal years, listen up. There's a whole new, vibrant life waiting for you to explore at this age, far beyond what it might feel like right now. But let's be real, you're not going to discover any of that while you're feeling utterly exhausted, completely depleted, emotionally, mentally scattered, and let's be honest, just over it, teetering on the verge of identity meltdown. So what's the secret sauce, you ask? What's the cure for this midlife malaise? Well, on today's episode, I'm going to whisk you away on a virtual Bali menopausal escape. I'll share exactly how that incredible journey helped me reconnect with my authentic self and ignited a whole new exciting chapter in my life. And I'm going to show you how you can tune in to what your soul truly needs at this significant, powerful juncture of our midlife journey. And not just survive, but embrace this empowering shift. Are you ready for your next adventure? Let's dive in. In this episode today, I want to talk about something that I know so many of us in midlife quietly whisper to ourselves, but don't always say it out loud. That moment that you look in the mirror and you think, who is this woman? And what is she meant to do with the rest of her life? For me, that moment didn't last a second. It stretched into about 6 relentless months where I felt like I was drowning in my own life. Menopause symptoms were piling on, the hot flushes, insomnia, the emotional roller coaster. But they weren't alone. I also had chronic pain, illness, injury, fatigue, vertigo. It felt like every part of my body had joined in some wild, uninvited experiment. But honestly, the scariest part wasn't even the physical stuff. The scariest part was that I felt completely estranged from my work. That the work that had always been my anchor, my joy actually, my purpose. I'd open social media and I see this wave of younger coaches and healers with slick branding and big promises, and I'd think, ugh, at my age, I don't have the energy for that kind of marketing circus anymore. And then the sneaky stories would start looping in my head. Is my work still valuable? Is it even needed? Maybe I've missed the boat. Maybe I'm past my use-by date. Can you relate to that? That quiet fear that maybe your best, most vital years are somehow behind you? At the same time, my days had slipped into this exhausting rinse and repeat cycle. Wake up, already tired from a rubbish night's sleep, splash water on my face, get the boys to school, drag myself to the gym because, menopause, weight gain, muscle loss, do all the right things and still see nothing change in the mirror. And by 3 p.m, the sugar became my coping strategy. My calendar was full of health appointments and clients who wanted escape without the deep inner work. And seriously, that drained me even more. Evenings were school pickups, dinner, homework, emotional support crew, and then I'd collapse into bed only to repeat the whole thing again the next day. And underneath all of that, there was this deep ache. My core values of joy, freedom, inspiration, self-expression, connection, contribution they just weren't being met. The internal chatter was brutal. Is this it? Why am I so exhausted and over it? Should I just retire, run away, or disappear quietly into the background? What's next? Who am I? If any of this sounds like your current rinse and repeat cycle, just notice that. You're not alone in it. Take a breath with me. And let's see what else might be possible. By the way, if you're new here, this is the Accidental Rebel and I'm Jen. Let's keep going. In the background of my own experience, I was also remembering my mum. Our mother's generation was basically gaslit into suffering menopause in silence. There was no roadmap beyond motherhood. It was just have the kids, do the work, then quietly fade into aging and retirement. I watched my mum suffer through her menopausal years. She had chronic pain, injuries, depression, falls. She chose not to take the HRT because of the health scares at the time, but no one offered her another way to support her body. The medical system, quite frankly, let her down. Community slipped away, and the men in her life, and honestly all of us, didn't really see the depth of what she was going through. And I remember thinking deep in my bones, that is not going to be my story. There is more in me yet. But knowing that there's more in you and actually feeling it are two very different things. So in one of those really low moments, I reached out to a really dear friend who is actually also a spiritual guide. And I poured my heart out to her. The symptoms, the exhaustion, the identity crisis, the disconnection from my work, all of it. And she said something so simple that honestly felt like a lightning bolt. She said, "Jen, it's just hormonal and you need to step out of your life for a bit so that you can hear your soul's whisper again. It's time to take yourself on a retreat." Oh, and I had this big, full body, oh my God, yes moment, because that's exactly what I was craving. But I hadn't yet given myself permission to want that. I didn't just want a holiday. I wanted nurturing, real connection, spaciousness, a chance to listen to my inner compass, not just my to-do list. I wanted to honor this transition instead of just enduring it. So I did something that, to be honest, felt pretty radical as a midlife mum and a business owner, a partner and daughter and all the things. And I took myself on a menopause retreat. I stripped off the hats of mum, wife, coach, healer, daughter, sister, all of them. And I went to Escape Haven in Bali. It's a sanctuary created especially for solo women travelers, actually, with support specifically for midlife and menopause. So what actually happens when a midlife, menopausal, exhausted mum and mentor lands in Bali and decides to do nothing? Well, let me take you there. Now, I want you to picture this with me for a moment. Smoothie in hand, floating on a beanbag in the pool. I'm about 10 minutes away from my second spa treatment of the day. Yes, 2 treatments a day. I've just had a manifesting consultation. I'm looking forward to a floating sound bath later. And I know I've got this beautiful private suite waiting for me with soft linens and a turn-down service. On day 1, I was a very good girl. I was following the schedule, ticking off all the activities. And by day 3, I actually just rolled over and went back to sleep. And that for me was revolutionary. I gave myself permission to do no thing. Nothing to fix, nothing to achieve, nothing to figure out. And in that silence of that no thing, something really beautiful started to happen. Gratitude came back. Joy came back. A sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years started to bubble up. Slowly, gently, the real Jen started to re-emerge. Of course, the retreat had all the gorgeous things: treatments, consultations, yoga, ceremonies, offerings, visits to healers and temples, all curated to what I personally needed. But one of those most powerful moments for me was a private consultation with a resident Ayurvedic doctor. It was like he was holding a personalized how-to manual for my life. He pinpointed my patterns and my preferences and my imbalances. And he really understood how menopause had been impacting me personally. And in a world where we're blasted with generic advice from Instagram, YouTube, even AI, and where a lot of doctors still aren't fully equipped to guide us through menopause, It was such a relief to sit with someone who could cut through the noise. He actually gave me specific supplements, supportive daily rituals, stretches, breathing exercises and meditations, and not in an overwhelming way, but in the real aligned, this is for you, Jen way. I felt so seen and understood. And it was like someone had handed me a tailored prescription for my whole being. My Virgo rising was very happy with that. So I want you to imagine just for a moment, someone sitting with you and creating a how-to manual for this season of your life. What would be different if you felt that seen and supported? But the magic of that retreat wasn't just in the moments, it was in the women. In our opening circle, we all shared why we were there and what we were hoping for. We came from all around the world with totally different lives, and yet our stories were so similar. Whether it was divorce, grief, cancer, chronic illness, burnout, the shifting sands of aging, losing ourselves in our roles, we were all feeling that seismic shake-up of midlife. And we were all yearning for the same thing: nurturing, nourishment, inspiration and renewal. And here's the thing about retreat. Connection happens fast. When there are no kids interrupting, no partner to caretake, no clients to serve, no table to clear, the job descriptions and the masks quietly fall away. We found ourselves sharing our hearts in the sauna, daring each other into the cold plunge, and vented in the spa, and laughing until we cried over dinner. We let each other witness our vulnerability, and in doing that, we created this beautiful field of honesty and support and relief. Some of the messages that came through later in our WhatsApp group were things like, meeting you was the integral part of the journey that I didn't know I needed. And thank you for helping me soften and return to a part of myself I'd left behind. Another had shared that she booked a life coach back to keep the support going. And another had said, I'd finally moved past the fear and started my own business. It was such a reminder of how powerful it is when women gather with the intention to heal, to be real, and to be witnessed. So this is why we can't do midlife alone. Whether it's a retreat, a circle, or even just one friend who gets it, we need spaces where our stories are heard and honoured. And then there was one more piece of the journey that I want to share with you. After the retreat, I gave myself 5 extra days in Ubud, among the rice fields, just to integrate, to reflect, to start mapping my renewed focus for work and for life. And during that time, I saw a Balinese healer there who, in the most unexpected way, handed me the missing key to my what's next question. It honestly felt like a fairy godmother moment, like she'd appeared and said, here's your destiny. What's actually holding you back? Do you need a dress, a carriage, the shackles taken off? Here you go. And suddenly the path that had been quietly whispering at me for years became crystal clear. The doubts of I can't, I shouldn't, I don't know how, just started to dissolve. And I came home feeling inspired again, alive again, energized and deeply grateful. I had this ridiculous Cheshire cat smile on my face for about a week, and to be honest, more than a month later, it was still there. And I felt back in alignment with my values of joy, freedom, inspiration, self-expression, connection, and contribution. I started weaving in new, nourishing rituals. I began writing again which is something that I'd been meaning to do for so long. And I knew deep down that I was a better mum, wife, and mentor because I'd taken that time for myself. So now I've made a promise to myself, a retreat every year, non-negotiable, because it keeps me connected to my own soul, my passion, my purpose, my path. And that brings me to you. If something in you is whispering, I need my own version of this, listen to it. It might not be Bali, but it might be something just for you. If you're not sure where to start, I've created a free soul alignment meditation to help you tune back into your own compass. And I'll share where to get that in just a moment. We're the first generation of women really doing this differently. We're pioneers weaving a new story of what it means to move from motherhood into eldership with power and purpose and presence. We're not disappearing quietly behind the closed doors of aging, and we're choosing to be visible, vital, and valued for ourselves and as ancestors in training for the generations that follow. So I want to leave you in this episode with a few gentle questions. What's your vision for who you're becoming through your menopause journey? If this transition was sacred, honoured, even celebrated, what might that look like in your life? And what fears come up when you imagine giving yourself that level of care and permission? What might you need physically, emotionally, spiritually to feel truly supported in this next chapter? For me, it began with giving myself permission to step out of my life and onto a retreat. For you, it might be a retreat, it might be a weekend away. It might simply be carving out an afternoon where you are not wife, not mum, not carer, not boss, just you. As you move through the rest of your day, just hold this question. What would it look like if my menopause journey was honoured as sacred? And what is one small, loving step you can take towards that this week? If you'd like support with that, you can download my free soul alignment meditation or book a complimentary 30-minute soul mastery discovery call. And you'll find both linked in the show notes below. In future episodes, we'll be talking much more about how to make this transition sacred, how to rewrite your midlife story, and how to walk that path from motherhood to eldership with your soul fully online. But for today, I hope my story of Bali and the Menopause Retreat sparks something in you, a little nudge that says, there is more in me yet, and I'm worth stepping out of my life so I can step back into it as my truest self. This is the Accidental Rebel, reclaiming your soulful truth in midlife. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.